Hello there, YouTuber Goober. Well, I'm just giving you kind of a part 3 to my Plinkerton review. And what I noticed when I got my Plinkerton back from Cimarron is that shoots perfect. It's all good in the hood. But I noticed it still wasn't exactly like a single action army. Kind of has the look, has the feel, has the size, has the shape. Single action, all the things I like. But it did not have a safety notch. See, when you pull the hammer back, it's supposed to have 4 clicks like a Colt if it's a true single action army clone. It only has 2 clicks. Has a half cock position to load and then a full cock position to fire from. So I thought to myself, they put me a new barrel sleeve in. They put a new cylinder in it because the old cylinder had just like, well, I'll show you here in a minute. And they put a new cylinder in. They put a new barrel sleeve in, and it seemed like they cleaned it up a little bit, oiled it. I was like, but why would they do all that and I still can't get 4 clicks out of it like I'm supposed to? So I decided that I'm going to go ahead and scatter it. I'm going to tear it down, look it over, see what's going on, look at my hammer, make sure it's got the proper amount of notches in it for a clone. And so that's the question. Is this a copy or is it a clone? If the parts aren't the same, at least the same part pieces, they don't necessarily have to fit exactly into a real Colt, but they at least ought to have the same number of parts, same position and everything like that to be called a clone. If not, then I would call it a copy. Alright. So anyways, here's what I did. I tore this gun down into its various pieces. Okay. Down a little farther on it. Can you see that? I don't know if there's enough light there. Let me put a little more light on the subject here. A little more light on the subject. Okay. As you can see, I've got this tore way down there. No trigger in there. No, all the springs are out. It's just a big bag of nothing right now. So it's got a case with a barrel hooked onto it. And it was pointless to pull the ejector out because there's nothing wrong with it. So I just left it on there just to save time, I guess. And then what we have here, this is the first thing I noticed when I was tearing it down. This back strap and trigger guard are all one piece, which is different than a real Colt clone or a real Colt. Even my Virginian Dragoon comes apart in 2 pieces. Usually they're separated right here. And so this makes it a lot more difficult to tear down and to reassemble. You have to really get everything jimmied just right to get it back together. And that's going to be tricky getting it back together. And you really got to watch out, and I'll show you why when you're taking it apart. Okay. Put those to the side for now. There we got here. All this junk here. That sucker. I told you I scattered it, didn't I? Alright, so we don't need to worry about these grips right now. They just screw in with this one screw here. And we'll just put those off in the bucket for now. Alright. Here's what I showed you, the new cylinder they gave me. And the deal is, on the old cylinder, right here, let's see, on one side you got the ratchet pad. On the other side, you got this bushing that comes out. And that's what keeps it spinning. You just oil that up, stick it back in there, and it keeps it filed and free. Alright. Well, on the old cylinder, you didn't have this. You just had a little fat little washer about the size of this. And it just fit right down in there, and then the hole inside the cylinder was a lot smaller, and this base pin would ride on it. But now you have a separate bushing. Right there it is, that rides on. Okay, now we'll set that aside for now, because I'm going to show you, and that's good. This is the way a real Colt or its clone single action army would have a bushing like this riding on the base pin to support the cylinder. Alright, trigger, pretty much garden variety single action army, which is good. Loading gate, not a whole lot of difference there. Loading gate, you got your little spring, you got a little spring and a little plunger that hold this loading gate right in that little gap right there. I'll show you what I mean. What you do, there's a little hole underneath here, and drop this plunger in there. You know what, I probably ought to put this loading gate in first. Right there. And then you drop this little plunger in right here. But spring. And this trigger guard and frame and everything hold that when it's mounted on here. It holds it together right there, right? And also, I'll show you what's going to be tricky getting this back together. Once you get that pressure on there, this gate won't slide out like that anymore. You get a little pressure on that spring. I got pressure with my thumb there holding it. Alright, and it won't come out. So we'll take that out for now, because we're kind of flopping around here like a flounder. Get that plunger out. There's plunger. And take that loading gate out. Alright. Now, another big thing I noticed, one of the biggest things I noticed that was different about this is this hammer. It doesn't have enough notches in it right here to have 4 clicks. So they have totally sliced off, or they cast it to where it's missing a notch, and it just goes straight into half cock. It does not have a safety notch on this. The purpose for the safety notch is if a person knew he was going into danger, he could go ahead and load 6 rounds and leave that on the safety notch, and then when he felt his life was threatened, he could go ahead and start blasting, and he'd have all 6 rounds. Where normally you would keep a single action with only 5 rounds in it with the hammer down on the empty chamber. So it does not have a safety notch. There's no way you can put this in a safety notch and safely carry 6 rounds of ammo. So anyways, and the safety notch really wasn't ever all that safe to begin with. That may be why they left it off. It's not much protection when you drop it. It can just shear off that notch, and it could go off. So Probably the reason they did that on this is a El Cheapo metal. It's probably some more of that Chiapalloy, which it feels like a die cast type of thing, like your die cast collector cars, stuff like that. That's probably why they didn't put a safety notch on this, because they knew if somebody dropped this or bumped it, that could just break off and then go off, and they'd get sued if somebody got really hurt or killed. So I guess it's probably a good thing they didn't even put a safety notch on this thing, because it's probably just asking for trouble. Always carry a Plinkerton with 5 rounds and the hammer down on an empty chamber. Alright, now another thing that I noticed about this is called the hand, or paw. Colt calls it a hand, Ruger calls it a paw, but whatever, this is what is used, this little hand looking thing is used to turn or ratchet the cylinder. And normally it would have a leaf spring on the back of it here. But what Plinkerton did, what Cimarron, Chiappa, whatever you want to call it, you can go on for hours trying to figure out who owns this outfit. But the Plinkerton kind of took a page out of Ruger's book. And what they use, I don't know if you can see it or not, but see that itty bitty little spring there? That's what they used. And in front of the spring is this itty bitty little plunger. If any of you have ever messed with cars or replaced a drive shaft, this looks like the little bearings inside the cup on the U-joint. It's one of those. In fact, if you ever lose this, that might be a good place to find a replacement. But anyways, this plunger rides on this hand right here like a Ruger instead of a Colt. And it gets its pressure from this little spring. And all this goes in the back of this frame. There's an extra little hole right there that this plunger and spring goes into and pushes up against the thing that holds that spring in also is this one piece back strap and trigger guard. So you got a spring trying to fly out there and a spring trying to fly out on the bottom. Makes it tricky. I like the robust design of that plunger and spring, but if they would have made this a 2-piece back strap and trigger guard like a Ruger or a Colt, it sure would have been a lot easier to get back together. All right, but yeah, that plunger and spring is a really good thing to have on that hand, because, and I'm going to call it a paw because they've got a Ruger system on here, and that's the word Ruger has for it. If it were a Colt system, I'd call it a hand, but because they've gotten rid of that leaf spring, which is one of the things that's prone to break on a Colt, that's good. This thing here will probably outlast the frame on this gun, so that's good. Alright, let's see if we can actually put this thing back together. Here's the cylinder stop. Comes up through the bottom of the frame here, bottom of the case. Comes up and stops the cylinder. Now, if this had a Colt mechanism in it, as far as Colt hammer mechanism, then rather than call this the cylinder stop, I would call it a bolt, because that's what Colt calls it. But because the internals of this are more like a Ruger, we're going to call it what Ruger calls it. They call it a cylinder stop. All right. Let's see if we can figure this out. We're going to take this paw and hammer, and we're going to try to get it back into the frame here. Oops. I can do it. I never said it's going to be easy, but I can do it. Boop. There you are. Sorry about that. Had to get it up before I can see it. We got the old man eyes happening here. Take this big screw and show it off in there. Yep, forgot my screwdriver. Let me run over to my hootenanny table and get it. I'm back. Not to worry. Alright, here we go. You just stick that, that's called the trigger screw right there. Alright. It's in there. You see that paw coming out every time I go like that? Paw right there. Paw trying to come out. Here it is. There you can see it. See it sticking out? Paw. That gravity's helping there. Alright. Let's see what's next. We're going to take this cylinder stop. And we're going to take, let me make sure these screws are the same size. Got a screw here left for the trigger, and I got a screw for the cylinder stop, and it appears they are the identical size. So guess what? We'll just flip a coin, right? Same size, same threads. Nothing to be afraid of. So we'll just shove that little puppy off in the bottom of this thing. In an orderly military manner. Don't do this to me. And we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Alright. This ain't my first rodeo, people. Alright. Yeah. Let's see. Right? Yeah. I'm getting better now. I'm seeing some daylight through that screw hole. Let's see if I'm doing this right. You ever wonder if you was getting it in the right hole? You know exactly what I'm going through, because start out with, I had 3 holes to choose from. Now I just got 2. I hope I'm doing this right. Alright. That's in there. Seems to be agreeable. Alright. Now then. If I mess up, don't tell anyone. This is my first time I've ever tore down a Plinkerton, so just bear with me here. Kind of a Plinkerton virgin going on here. It's alright though, because I'm going to let you test fire it for me after I finish. You know what's missing? I think I would really like to hear some blues while we're monkeying this thing. So, hang on just a second. Alrighty then, I'm back. Got us a little music to listen to so it won't be so boring. Alright, got my trigger in. Let's see if that's any good. Oh yeah. So tricky. I'm putting a little cylinder stop spring in now. Let's see how that works. Don't get me wrong, I like this little gun because what it lacks in a steel frame, because this ain't no steel frame, people, okay? What it lacks in a steel frame, it kind of makes up for with its Ruger design in the paw spring. It's got a paw spring instead of a handspring. Now, speaking of that, it's time to put those things back together. Let's see, here is my loading gate that I'm going to put in there before I put the spring and plunger in. That will go right there. There's a little plunger. And that goes here. And there's my plunger. Spring for the plunger. Tricky. You gotta watch out that don't fall out of there, because now I've got to take and stick this paw plunger in the back here, and then the little spring that goes in behind it. Then we're going to put this back strap on, and I think that the easiest way to do this is to just put the screw in that's closest to the plunger spring into this frame. So, now here's another thing. I got to get this darned old little leaf spring. Let's see, I'm going to cock this little booger bear if I can. There you go. And you got this leaf spring. Because this isn't two-piece, you're going to have to put the leaf spring in all at the same time. So, you'll be monkeying around like a crazy monkey here for too long. There. There you go. Alright, that's what I did with the tie strap. I'm kind of taking the tension off of that little mainspring. Took the tension off of it. Let's see if I have any better luck now. Maybe I can do this without poking myself in the eye with it. So far, so good. I'll put my back strap screws in first. One seems to be going in. One seems to be going in. See where they are? Yeah. And if they feel like they don't want to go, don't force them, okay? Just kind of regroup and do it again. If they feel crooked, don't force them, because you don't want to cross thread, especially with this cheap metal gun we got. This metal is screwing into is some kind of die cast alloy, it feels like. But keep in mind this is just a 22, so it doesn't have to be stainless steel to hold up under the rigors of a 22. And the barrel is stainless steel, and the cylinder has stainless steel sleeves in each individual chamber. So, see how we did here. I think we did all right. Everything's feeling good. Let me take off this tie strap. Come on, baby. There we go. It's working, baby. It's working. Pause. Got my spring on it. Got spring pressure on my hammer, on my cylinder stop. I got my leaf spring working right on my hammer. See that leaf spring right there? That's for the hammer. That's called the mainspring. Okay. Alright. Now then, see what else we got over here. We got all kind of crazy stuff here. We'll go ahead and stick these grips back on here. Don't need that anymore. It's just a fun gun for shooting 22. I'm going to tell you something. I think you shoot 22 from now till the cows come home in this thing. It's really good. Some of these come with a 22 Magnum cylinder in addition to the regular 22 cylinder. And, you know, I think I would practice mostly with 22 long rifle. And then if you had to use it for home defense, go ahead and put your Magnum cylinder in there and just, you know, have that for your home defense. Because the ballistics on a 22 Magnum are right up there with a 380 auto out of something like this. So Yeah, if you have to use that, yeah, if you just shoot this thing with a Magnum all the time, I don't think it's going to hold up. Okay, but if you just shoot the 22 long rifle out of this, I think it'll hold up. Probably, who knows? Sky's the limit. All right, let's get that cylinder back in here. There it is. Take your cylinder. Take your Colt style bushing. Drop it off in there. Go ahead and open your gate. The gate's working perfectly. Remember, we had our plunger and our spring held in there by the trigger guard and back strap. And we'll go ahead and drop this cylinder in. Really ought to have this in the half cock position when you do that. Alright. Throw the base pin off in there. There it goes. Yep, not too far. There it is. That's in there good. Alright. Now it's ready to shoot. But I guess we found out together that really the guts on this thing are more like a Ruger with that plunger style paw spring instead of a leaf handspring. And there's no safety notch. Not exactly like a Ruger, but and it still has the Colt style mainspring, leaf style. So it's kind of a Colt Ruger hybrid. Not saying that's the best way to do it. I'm not saying that's the worst way to do it. I'm saying the plunger, the Ruger style paw spring plunger, is a good way to make a cheap gun a little bit more reliable than it otherwise would have been. So anyhow, that's it for now, and we'll see if I can get some shots of shooting this thing after we put it back together. Alright, y'all have a good one now.